our Career Coach Webinar, Becoming a Better Supply Chain Networker. My name is Dana Day, and I am the Manager of Member Relations at APICS. Before we begin, I'd like to run through a few details. This presentation is being recorded and will be available at apics.org/careercoach. At the end of the presentation, we will have time for a question and answer session. If you look at the toolbar on your screen, you'll see a questions box. To ask your question at any time during the presentation, simply type it in the box and click send. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Rodney Apple. Rodney is the founder and president of SCM Talent Group, LLC, a national supply chain recruiting and executive search firm that recruits across the end-to-end supply chain discipline. Rodney has been working in professional recruiting for many years and has a wealth of knowledge and experiences that he generously shares as our own APICS career coach. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to Rodney Apple. Rodney, you may begin.
Thank you very much, Dana, and thanks to everyone that is joining the webinar today. So we're going to go through becoming a better supply chain networker. A few years ago, we covered this topic, so this is a refresh, and we put in some new material, and I'm looking forward to presenting the material today. So with that being said, we're going to start out with a quick introduction on my background, talk about the benefits of networking, different avenues that you can tap into for networking purposes, online networking best practices. We'll go through some basic LinkedIn networking tips, talk about in-person networking best practices. I've got some icebreakers that I've thrown in here as well, and then we'll go through some networking apps, website, and tools that can help facilitate networking and connecting with other individuals. And then Dana's going to discuss a couple of new member benefits that APICS has recently released, and then we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. So just a quick overview of my background, a little more detail. I've been recruiting for about 23 years since I got out of college, and most of that has been in end-to-end supply chain, with half of that time on the corporate side with some pretty large corporations, including the Coca-Cola Company, the Home Depot, Kimberly-Clark, and a few other companies listed there. One of my proudest accomplishments is back in 2002, I recruited and built the very first supply chain department for the Home Depot, and have really been heavily focused in this area ever since then. As far as our firm goes, we cover the end-to-end supply chain, everything from logistics and transportation to sourcing, procurement, all of the different planning cycles from demand through supply and production. I do a lot in the manufacturing space, and then we do a lot in quality and continuous improvement. Mainly focus in retained executive search. We also do contingency search, and we do contract staffing as well. We're fairly industry agnostic, mainly work with companies that are product centric, so manufacturers, retailers, wholesale distributors, and also work with e-commerce companies, which obviously falls under the retail umbrella. So I have seen a lot, having filled over 1,000 different professional to executive level supply chain positions, and I think working on both the corporate side half the time and then other half on the agency gives me a unique perspective, and I love to share the wisdom that I've learned over the years, not just with the people that we talk to day to day within our firm, but also serving as the career coach for APICS. If we're not connected, we'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. There's my LinkedIn handle, there's my email address, and there's our Twitter account. So feel free to connect with us there. If this is the first career coach webinar that you've joined, we have a very extensive portfolio of webinars that you can replay as an APICS member, as well as white papers that you can download and review. The white papers are, obviously they're going to be a lot more detailed. They'll provide links and things like that to certain topic areas. So here's a kind of a list that we've covered in the last, I guess, 4+ years since I've been serving as the APICS career coach, dating back to 2014. To access those, just go to apics.org/careercoach. You'll need to log in with your APICS membership credentials, and then you'll see my bio, as well as a list of all the white papers and webinars that you can replay. Most recently have been serving, I guess going on 2 years, as a magazine author for the professional development. So if you'll get the next magazine here probably in the next few weeks, and trying to remember what we covered in the last article. But here's some other articles that I've written that you can go back to past issues and explore if you like, or you can review them online as well at the APICS Magazine digital version. All right, let's get started. I want to first start out with the importance of networking and explain why we need to do it, how it can accelerate your career and things like that. So I always start out with a quote, and this is one of my favorite ones. I'm going to read it out loud. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. That's Steve Jobs' commencement speech from Stanford University back in 2005. On a side note, that is one of the best commencement speeches I've ever listened to, and I would definitely encourage you to get on YouTube and go check that out. But what he's referring here is basically to, making connections. Sometimes it may not seem like you're getting a immediate, tangible benefit out of doing so. You have to trust, though, that all of these connections, all of these dots that you're making are going to somehow benefit you as you move forward in your career. That's kind of the gist of the message here. I think the number one mistake that I see candidates making, or job seekers, or individuals in general, and also a common misconception, is that networking is something that you only do when you're in a job search mode. Now, granted, that is by far the best tactic you can utilize when you're in job search mode, but there are a lot of benefits you can receive, from being an active networker. And there is some science behind this. This isn't just Rodney Apple, the career coach, telling you this is important. I've done this my entire career. I'm in recruiting, and it's pretty much the backbone of what we do is connecting, employers with candidates. So 23 years of full-time networking under my belt. But there are some peer-reviewed studies out there, and they basically state that embracing networking, having an open network instead of a closed network, is one of the best predictors of career success. One of the top scientists on networking, his name is Dr. Ronald Burt with the Chicago Booth School of Business, a very nice business school. He's been studying this for decades, and there's a link to his website. You can feel free to peruse some of his material, but there's, like I said, plenty of studies that show that networking, having an open network, and making it part of your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly routine, and expanding that network. And that doesn't mean number of connections on LinkedIn. That is not what it's about. It's actually having real, meaningful connections that are interactive, that you're engaging with people within your network. That's what it's all about. And I have plenty of stories that I can talk to from people I've worked with over the years in supply chain. Starting out as an analyst, I've followed their careers from many people that I've placed. And I tell you what, the ones that are sitting there in that, head of supply chain or those leadership spots with those dream jobs that a lot of people are seeking in supply chain, I can tell you that all of them were very strong networkers, are very strong networkers. And here's another chart that I pulled from an article on Forbes, and that's how I first became aware of Dr. Ronald Burt there. This is basically just a chart showing on the left-hand side, performance, relative performance, compensation, your evaluations, your level of promotions are going to go up when you have an open and large network. And oftentimes you want to get to a place where you're connected to different groups of people, not just hanging out with the same crowd, which is illustrated on the right, where you're a small, closed network. You only associate with a handful of people, and I've heard the saying before: you are who you hang out with, and you are who you know. And so stepping out of that comfort zone and talking to different people, there's a whole lot of benefits associated with that from a career perspective. Let's talk about those benefits. So the big one is, opening up new doors. There's a whole lot of jobs out there that are never posted, and a lot of positions, actually the number one source for folks getting jobs is through their network. So that alone ought to tell you that it's important to be an active networker. Building a mutually beneficial business relationships, that one is an obvious. Learning new ideas, learning new ways of thinking when you associate with a diverse group of people is certainly going to enhance your career and your knowledge base as well. We've talked about job search and career development, that a lot of people think that networking is all about, and people make that mistake of, oh, I got to get out there and network, I'm out of work. Biggest mistake you can make. If you build that network early on, and if you do find yourself in between jobs, you have a network already in place to lean on versus having to try to create it from scratch or try to re-engage with people that you may not have talked to in years. Obviously, business development, generating leads, developing referrals for recruiting and hiring candidates. Very important, and especially in today's low unemployment, tightening labor market. If you're a hiring authority, it certainly can behoove you to get out there and network and meet with people. Staying on top of industry trends and happenings. I know there's an Associate Global Conference that's going on right now. Gartner is happening right now on day 3. I'm seeing lots of folks post some fascinating things going on with robotics and AI on my LinkedIn feed coming out of that conference, and I know you're going to see the exact same thing at the APICS conference coming up in a few months. Elevating your personal brand, putting yourself out there, showing that you have expertise in a certain domain, whether it be supply chain or something else, and improving your reputation within the marketplace. That's something that networking can help you with. I personally get a satisfaction from helping others. I do this for free for APICS. Of course, there are some benefits out of it from a branding promotion perspective for myself, but I love helping out others, so I get tremendous satisfaction when I see people that can use my advice to benefit their career. Clearly, you can earn credits to maintain your supply chain certifications by attending chapter events and also conferences and other educational offerings that APICS has. Helps to build up your leadership skills, your self-esteem, your confidence, public speaking, and so forth. Coaching and mentoring. You can facilitate introductions and referrals and connect others together that can benefit from one another and having a relationship. I do that all the time. That's actually what I do for a living. Interacting with industry peers, that's an obvious. Help you achieve accelerate your career goals, not just achieve, but accelerate hitting those goals. Great way to conduct market research analysis, such as participating, have folks to benchmark with at other companies in terms of best practices. A lot of people that are out there today that have started, famous companies, they met at a networking event. You can discover potential investment opportunities, hook up with new suppliers or service providers. When I go to chapter events, I oftentimes run into plenty of folks that work with carriers or 3PLs, technology companies, consulting companies, and then on the other side, you have the corporate side. It's just a great way to do business and meet other peers in the industry. And building friendships. I've met a lot of folks that I'm very good friends with from the active networking, and I actually met my significant other at a networking event in Atlanta, a recruiters networking event, many years ago. That happens too. So, covering the benefits of networking, where are some places you can go to network and meet new people, engage with others? Obviously, APICS is a fantastic place. and other supply chain associations that you may belong to. Most of them have local chapters, especially in the larger cities. You can volunteer for the chapter. That's a great way to meet people as well, but also to help the chapter succeed with its mission. You can participate in the facility tours that other companies are sponsoring, whether it be a warehouse or factory or whatnot. Attending conferences like we've talked about, and I'll get into that here in just a bit. You've got online membership directories too. I've been tapping into these, for networking with candidates, with potential clients. I know APICS has the supply chain channel, supplychainchannel.com. I know other associations, they tend to have some kind of directory that makes it easy to find other people. So you should definitely leverage those directories to enhance your ability to reach out and connect with your peers or potential employers and so forth. You've got online communities as well. The Chamber of Commerce is the largest business networking group. They've got again, chapter events that go on all the time. I live here in Asheville. We've got a very active chapter. I used to live in Atlanta, and it's way, way, way bigger than the one we have here in Asheville. There's the Business Networking International. That's an international group. And then you've got Business Journals events, bizjournals.com. They've got a calendar there, and every major city they put out. It's a very good way to stay abreast of happenings with companies and businesses within a particular city that you may live in. I subscribe to those. I still get those emails every day, just talking about breaking news and things like that. Other avenues include meetup.com, Eventbrite, and you also have LinkedIn groups. I'm actually belong to a few meetup groups for hobbies that I participate in. That's a great way to get out and network with people. Doesn't have to be in supply chain. Doesn't have to be business related. If you've got some hobbies that you enjoy, this is a great way to get out and meet with like-minded people. And you never know what that could turn into. It could turn into a business opportunity. An easy source for you to tap into is with your alumni. LinkedIn makes that very, very easy. You can go into the LinkedIn search and check in, put in your alma mater and look for people. If you want to look up folks that work in your domain and supply chain or whatnot, LinkedIn makes it very easy to search for people that went to the same school. It doesn't matter if it was, the time that you went there. It could be people that graduated long before you that are now, running their own supply chain. Asking for referrals, reaching out to the people that you're connected to with right now, not just alumni, but people you're connected to on LinkedIn, your coworkers, your peers, influencers, things like that. Asking for referrals. People are typically happy to provide a referral if you can properly explain what you're looking for. Civic associations, there's volunteering, charity fundraisers, taking a class at a community college, Toastmasters, if you're trying to enhance your public speaking skills, that's still a great place to meet others on the business side. And then you've got social media and online networking, which we'll get into here a little bit. I'm sure everybody's familiar with these sites, seminars, retreats, and the list goes on and on. There's no shortage, there's no shortage of places to meet new people. So I'm breaking up the networking best practices into online and offline. So we'll start with online, and that means obviously making those digital connections, with LinkedIn being, typically the #1 avenue that you would want to start with there. So some best practices here. A lot of folks get on LinkedIn and they just hit that invite button, and that's okay. But there's a better way to do it. If you're out there meeting with people. Well, clearly you want to start with having some kind of idea or strategy in place. Okay, what do I want to get out of networking? We'll talk about that here in a minute, how to put together a networking strategy. But you don't want to go into anything, but especially networking, just haphazardly, and you're connecting with random people all over the place. You want to figure out, how can I, what am I looking to do from a goals perspective? What kind of benefits am I looking to receive? And then how can I help others out? It's reciprocal. It's all about, how can I help you out? And, what am I looking to get out of this connection? You want to make that relationship mutually beneficial. So when you're reaching out to folks, try to answer these questions. What problem do you love to solve in your profession, and how do you accomplish that? What are you looking to do next in terms of enhancing your skills, your experience, your hitting your career goals? Think about those things prior to reaching out with people. And then last but certainly not least, how can I help this individual out that I'm reaching out to? So here's an example of a personalizing an introduction online. Love managing procurement, gives my company a competitive advantage. I'm looking to connect with procurement professionals like yourself. I'm hoping to expand my knowledge base and identify some new techniques for improving my overall procurement skills. Would love to learn how I can help you in any way, whether it be a benchmarking exercise or facilitating an introduction to an individual or supplier within my professional network. So I've thrown out that, how can I help you? Here's what I'm looking for. This is why I want to connect. And if you do that, you're certainly going to increase the number of connections. You're going to get those invitations accepted. Some people frown upon getting an invite, and they're like, why do you want to connect with me? That standard message comes across from LinkedIn. I'd love to be a member of your LinkedIn network. Well, let's go beyond that. Let's explain why we want to connect, and that helps to facilitate moving it on to the next step, which is a real connection, not just a digital connection. So again, when you're engaging with someone, a new connection, the number one thing you want to think of, that's why I've underlined it in bold and red, is how can I help this person? That has to be at the top of mind. You certainly don't want to go into it, what's in it for me, 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 me. That's going to come across the wrong way. It's going to give off a kind of a negative connotation. Talked about having some goals in mind. What do I want to accomplish by meeting this person or setting up a call with this individual? You want to identify and state those potential benefits, just like we did in that prior example that I gave. And if it makes sense, aim for trying to schedule a call or a meeting. If the person says, yeah, I'd love to, yeah, I think I could use some help with this, or I think I could help you, you want to try to strive to take it beyond a digital connection convert that into a real live conversation, whether it be in person, over coffee, over lunch, and so forth. You're going to meet a lot of people if you participate in this activity on a daily, weekly, and so forth basis. So you have to keep, very important, you have to keep track of the people that you're connecting with. LinkedIn is an easy tool for finding people and engaging with people, but you can also export contacts into your favorite, system, whether it be Outlook, Gmail, a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. HubSpot is a very affordable one. They charge, as you get up there in contacts, they're going to charge you more money, but I think they've got either a free or very affordable starter package, and that's just a great way to keep track of contacts, knowing when you need to follow back up and check in with somebody and so forth. Because the goal is, especially if you're in a job search mode or in a business development mode, you want to stay in contact. You want to stay on their radar screen. So to do that, you're going to schedule check-ins, but you certainly don't want to call and write, hey, I'm just checking in. As a salesperson, you certainly don't want to follow up with a message and say, hey, I'm just checking in to see if you got the last message. Every time you check in with someone, you want to try to add some type of value. It could be a tip that you want to share. Maybe there's some news that just broke that you want to share with someone. Maybe you read some news about the company that individual works for that you'd like to learn more about. Whatever it might be, don't just follow up for the sake of following up or checking in. Try to think of something that you can help that individual with, and so forth. Another way to stay on the radar screen is to, especially if you're in LinkedIn, share content, and it doesn't have to be LinkedIn. You can certainly email someone an article. You can, if you find something they share of interest, you can share it. You can like it. You can comment on a post. That's just a great way to keep your name in front of not only that individual, but other individuals as well. Lastly, again, when you connect with someone, you make that first connection. I get these all the time, and it's just I sit there and just put my palm against my forehead. okay, you just connected with me like 1 minute ago, and you're already pitching me on your product or service. That is the the quickest and easiest way to turn someone off from a networking perspective. And sure, you're going to have something that you want out of that person that you're hoping to obtain, but you don't want to go in right away hot. You want to warm that person up, and you don't go in and say, hey, I'm looking for this, or can you connect me with this person? Hey, we sell this product. I'd love to set up a demo. That's going to be an instant turn on. So never try to sell or push someone for help, especially right after connecting. Key tip here is, just like you've heard, growing up in life, the more you give, the more you help people, the more you're going to receive. And that really is what networking is all about. Going over some basic LinkedIn networking tips, and I'm not going to get too deep into this. I could spend a whole hour or even more on this topic. So I do want to point out that if you go to apics.org/career-coach, we already have a past white paper as well as a webinar you can listen to on LinkedIn, optimizing your profile and how to use LinkedIn to connect with people, engage with people, and so forth. So, but you clearly want to have a complete profile. That's number one. Complete it. LinkedIn even tells you what percentage you're at. If you're at 50%, if you're 100%, you're an all-star. You have to complete it in full. Try to customize your URL from I won't get in too much into search engine optimization and search rankings, but to improve how your profile pulls up in a search when someone's putting in criteria that matches your profile. Let's say you're a supply chain director in Indiana. They're looking for somebody like that to connect with. You want to make sure you've got the right keywords in the right places peppered throughout your profile, from your headline to your different job titles to your summary and so forth. That helps to improve your ranking. So definitely complete and optimize your profile. That helps you be found, but it also, I come across profiles all the time. I can't even tell what the person does because all they've listed is one title. I couldn't believe I spoke with somebody that was a head of logistics, and she was looking for a position, had a ridiculous background for a very popular brand, Fortune 100 company, and her profile was just, one title. I really couldn't even tell what she did, and she was wondering why she wasn't getting any calls from recruiters, and why it was taking her a while to find a position. And I explained, hey, your profile is almost a blank sheet of paper. You may want to get in there and spruce that thing up. But you don't want to sit back and wait for things to happen, wait for people to contact you. You want to be an active participator, share content on LinkedIn. I do that almost daily myself. Comment, engage with others. Share your own opinion on the subject. And it's okay to disagree with someone. You just want to be polite and respectful. There's plenty of people out there that are bashing one another in social media. Don't be that guy or gal. You can publish content. Anyone can do this now. You can write an article on LinkedIn Pulse. Again, just don't be out there posting something like, hey, we've got a job opening. You can apply here. You want to try to contribute something of value. And again, that goes back to trying to focus on what can this message do to help someone, as opposed to, hey, me. So make sure if you're using LinkedIn Pulse that you're writing good content. You can also engage with LinkedIn group discussions. APICS has a LinkedIn group, and there's always good topics and banner going back and forth there. If you ever need help with a problem, you're trying to figure out, how do I implement this, or how do I improve this process? Who's a good supplier for this particular commodity? Great place to post things in LinkedIn groups to get some suggestions for help from your peers. You want to personalize every connection request. We've talked about the importance of doing that. I also recommend developing some basic messaging templates that you would use. So you're not, that's going to just be a time saver. You're not having to recreate the wheel every time you write a message. You also don't want to send out cookie cutter templates, but at least have a template that you can sort of customize based on the individual's background and so forth that you're trying to connect with. That helps to speed up the process of making new connections. Important to understand, LinkedIn's formula or algorithm. It's kind of, you probably heard the degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Everybody's like 2 degrees or 3 degrees, whatever it is from Kevin Bacon. LinkedIn is the same way. It's, if you don't get out there and connect with people, you're not going to have a very rich experience. So try to make new connections, maybe set a goal to have an X amount of connections per week or month, and that certainly can help expand your network. I like to tell people, try to figure out who the influencers are. You can look at some of the speakers that have spoken at past APICS events. That's a great place to find those types of individuals. You can look up executives at some of the larger companies, people that publish content in supply chain trade journals and so forth. People that have a large network, people that tend to attract others, and I call them hyperconnectors. You can also call them influencers, but they tend to have a lot of high quality connections. So when you connect to someone, one of these folks, you're going to immediately be 1 degree, 2 degrees separated from all of their connections. That can really help open up your network. So I would recommend trying to connect with those folks. If you're in a job search mode, so I'm not going to, we've done another white paper on job search strategy. We've actually done 2, so I don't have time to get into that. But, think about that as well. Who are some people at your target companies that you might want to connect with that are in that senior, hiring authority spot, whether it's head of supply chain or head of a certain department or plant manager, distribution center manager, and so forth. Did you know you can also, surely you keep your contacts in Outlook. It could be in Gmail or some other system. LinkedIn allows you to import those contacts, and then with a click of a couple of buttons, you can send out an invitation to everyone that you already have within your system. So definitely do that if you haven't already. I did that one time, and it was it sent out several hundred within a click of a button, and just a quick way to expand your network within minutes. Key tip here is when you think about building your online network, you want to focus on quality and not quantity. I see a lot of people that are out there, they have the acronym LINE behind their name or on their profile. It stands for LinkedIn Open Networker, and I don't understand it. But, these people will connect with anyone and everyone. And the next thing you know, they're the first people complaining about their feeds being full of junk. And that's what's going to happen if you're connecting to a bunch of spammers or whoever it might be, scammers. You want to make sure you're connecting with people that you feel maybe could be a benefit. You're going to maybe gain something, or maybe you can help them out, and try to avoid folks that you have zero in common with. They're on the other side of the planet. They don't have anything to do with your profession or anything else. So now we're going to shift over to in-person networking best practices. I'm going to break this down into what you need to do before a networking event, and then at the actual event, and then what you want to do to follow up afterwards. So before you go into any kind of networking event, whether it be a chapter event for APICS or a conference or anything else, spend a few minutes thinking about, what do I want to achieve? What kind of benefits do I want to receive out of this particular event? So that's the networking strategy, and I would especially do this if you're going to a big event like the APICS conference in a few months. Put together some objectives and some benefits you're striving for. Look at the calendar. Someone the other day sent out a list of all the supply chain networking events, and it was crazy. There's dozens of them, and many of them occur on the same weekend. So you obviously can't be at 2 places at once. So you want to figure out, what's the most likely place that I'm going to meet people that I really want to associate with, and then try to get those on your calendar for the year. Obviously, some of these can be expensive to go to if you do a bunch of them with travel and the cost of getting in the door and so forth. But, add that into your equation as you're figuring out what kind of events do I want to do at that national or global scale. And then you can obviously do chapter events, are a lot easier to go to in your backyard. Get them on the calendar though, so they're there, block the time off, and that way you can start planning in advance. You want to identify the types of people you want to connect with. And I recommend, if you do have a few people that you are high on your list, go ahead and reach out to them before the event. Hey, I see you're speaking on this topic. That's an area that I'm very passionate about. I would love to meet you. Perhaps I can come up and shake your hand before you get started or right afterward, or we could maybe meet for coffee, or even sit down with them at lunch over the lunch break. So have that list in mind, and don't be bashful. Reach out to those folks, flatter them, give them a compliment, and then see if you can set up 5 minutes to shake their hand and exchange business cards. You also want to just like with anything else in life, I talk about this all the time on our webinars, but again, having the goals, assigning the activities or actions that are going to help you achieve those goals, and then putting in some deadlines. And it may not be deadlines at the event, but it may be deadlines that, like, I want to follow up with someone within a couple of days after the event. What do you do at the event? Clearly you want to dress to impress, but try to stand out. I mean, if everybody's wearing a dark suit at the event, you're not going to stand out. So maybe dress a little bit differently, have a flashy tie, whatever it might be, something that is just different to help you stand out from the crowd. You want to focus on meeting new acquaintances, strangers, people that you do not know or never met in person. See a lot of folks go to these conferences that hang out with their work colleagues and they don't get out and meet other people. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of going there if you're not going to get out and meet new people? I mean, clearly you can learn new things. That's what these conferences are about, but they're also bringing people together so they can exchange new ideas, business cards, and benefit from one another. So try to, sure, it's great to have a networking buddy, especially if you're a little bit more introverted or shy. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not the two of you hanging out and not getting together with other people. And greet each person with a firm handshake, eye contact, and a smile. Firm handshake, not the loose, fishy handshake that can be a turnoff to folks. I've gotten plenty of those in my life. Always arrive early to the meetings you're going to or the event. Get a feel for the layout, and then try to help people as they're coming in the door. That's a great way to meet people. Asking questions is very important. We'll go through some icebreakers here in a minute. Asking how you can help. Hey, here's what I do. What do you do? And I'd love to. Is there anything I could do to, maybe to help you out? Here's my card. So always be thinking, how can I help someone? Not what can they do for me? And then exchanging business cards is very important. And I like to, when I get a card at an event, I immediately flip it over to try to help me remember that person. When I get back to my office a few days later, I kind of write a couple of keywords to help jog my memory. So that's a good practice as well. After the event, you certainly want to collect your thoughts, put a list together of follow-ups that you need to do. Follow up with any new contacts you've made. The sooner you do it, the better. If you wait 2-3 weeks or a couple of months, they're going to be like, I don't remember meeting you. So it's best to do that as soon as possible. And that way you can keep that momentum going with those individuals and truly maximize those new connections. Obviously, you want to connect on LinkedIn, any other social media sites where it makes sense. If they're on Twitter and they're active, follow them there. Again, setting reminders in your calendar is very important so you can stay on their radar. I would say if it makes sense, you've qualified that new connection, you think you could help that person or vice versa, then you want to take it to the next step, have a after-work beverage, lunch, dinner, so forth. And again, sharing contents, keeping them on the top of mind as you run across new articles, or maybe you create a piece of content that you think could be beneficial. That's helping the person, that's adding value. And that's what you need to focus on, once you get past the event and you've made a connection. Keep that relationship going by staying in touch. But again, don't just, hey, I'm checking in, how's it going? Have something that you can share of value. What not to do. We've talked about a couple of things. Don't hang out with your people at work the entire 3 or 4 days. Get out and meet new people. So don't wing it. Always plan ahead. I'm guilty of my early days of getting out there or just showing up, and it's better to go in with a plan of attack and know who's speaking or know who's going to be there, and try to have a list together of those you want to connect with. Don't forget your business cards. I certainly have been to chapter events, and it's just awkward. Hey, can I have a card? Sorry, I forgot it. Even if you're unemployed, you can go to Vistaprint for like $10-15 and buy a 100-pack or 500-pack of cards. You can design them. They've got templates. So if you're unemployed, at least create something online. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to have your contact information. Don't forget to obtain business cards. You meet someone, you have a wonderful conversation, you walk away, shoot, I forgot. And then that person's off into a crowd of another 1,000 people, and you're not going to see them again. Don't focus on getting out there and selling your products or services. Not really the venue to do this. The conversation does steer in that direction. The individual tells you, I could use help with this, or I'm looking to upgrade this system. Then go for it. But don't start with that. That's the definite turnoff. Again, don't hang out with everybody you already know. Don't lie or put yourself above others. Braggadocious behavior, chip on the shoulder, those kind of things are an instant turnoff. Don't forget to follow up as soon as you get back, within a couple of days at best. Don't talk too much and ramble. Make sure you're giving proper eye contact. You certainly don't want to consume too much alcohol. That can lead to some very embarrassing behavior. So keep that in check. And knowing your elevator pitch, I think that's important for everyone, but especially when you get to these events, make sure within 30 seconds you can easily explain what you do. 15 seconds to 30 seconds. So practice that. And don't forget to ask great questions. That's certainly a great way to build rapport. So here's some icebreakers. I'll kind of go through a few of these. I want to make sure we save plenty of time for Q&A. Hi, I don't know that many people here. I wanted to introduce myself. I work at this company. Here's what I do. What brought you here today, or where'd you come in from? I've heard lots of great tips and advice at this event. What's been your most enjoyable experience so far? What presenter did you enjoy the most, and why? And so forth. So having a few icebreakers in mind, it can certainly, mitigate having some awkward silence. You don't want silence when you're meeting someone new. These are great ways to just facilitate those conversations. So lastly, we're going to get into some networking tools, apps, and websites. So obviously LinkedIn always, is clearly, the number one way, at least from an online perspective, to find new people, to be found, and to connect with others. They do have mobile apps. I've got, I think, every single one of these on my phone. So I've got LinkedIn. I can see when people have, reached out to me to, I can see that actually right now. It's just an easy way to do it on your phone. Your phone's with you at all times. If you're in the job search mode, they have a job search app. Pulse gives you, news and events that are going on, and you can subscribe to certain topics. You've got LinkedIn groups, of course, and then you've got SlideShare, where you can review presentations on supply chain topics and whatever you're interested in. HubSpot, we talked about that a minute ago. It's a very popular CRM. They are growing like crazy, and they've got some very affordable packages. I have been using this though for other reasons. There's other applications that have caught on to this but basically when you send an email, which you're going to do a lot of when you're networking, wouldn't it be nice to see when someone opens that email, or if they click a certain link that you provided? This is fantastic for sales and for what I do in recruiting. But when you're networking with people, it's just great to know when someone has received your email. Then you can maybe follow up with that phone call or shoot them another email if they don't hear back. If you're in a job search mode, there's a fantastic app called Jobber, and again, it really helps facilitate tracking all of the people that you meet from a job search networking perspective, putting in your target companies and so forth. Huge fan of Feedly if you're looking to have topics and to stay on top of all the trends that are going on with supply chain. Feedly basically is a place where you can bring in all the articles, all the blogs, trade journals that you want to subscribe to. Really any topic under the sun. I have all of the supply chain blogs. I've got an app on my phone, and I try to review this at least once or twice a week just so I can stay abreast of what's going on in supply chain. And then you can use that information and share it with others in your network. Finding email addresses is always a challenge. LinkedIn, it can be sometimes challenging to connect with people when you use their in-mail service, their messaging service. So you can sometimes guess email addresses, but there's a lot of tools out there. This Hunter tool, it's free for 100 free searches a month. If you're looking to connect with someone, you can't find out how to do it through LinkedIn. You don't know their email. This is a great place to look up their email addresses. LinkedIn also has a tool called Sales Navigator. And it's a pretty cool extension for Gmail that as you're looking at a contact, you're corresponding with someone, it'll pop up a window. It shows you, their a snippet of their LinkedIn profile, their titles, companies they're with, and it's oftentimes a photo as well. It's kind of a cool way as you're going through a list of people trying to reach out, you see their basic information over to the right of your screen. Again, we talked about Meetup. Fantastic way to get out and meet people. It doesn't have to be business related. There's a whole lot of more topics there, and meeting groups on the personal side could align with your hobbies and passions and things like that. We have put together a more extensive list on our website. There's the link there at the very bottom. And that concludes the presentation. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Dana just for a few minutes, and she's going to go through a couple of new benefits that have been released by APICS here recently that I think you're going to be excited about.
Great, thank you, Rodney. So while you're typing in your questions, I'm going to briefly go over some new member benefits. So we've just relaunched our Mentor Center and our job board. Members can access job postings 4 days before non-members. When employers look in their resume bank, APICS members will be highlighted with our logo to show that you are a dedicated supply chain professional. Members will also be able to sign in through LinkedIn to pull over existing information. Another new feature is the ability to see any LinkedIn connections you may have within a company who is posting a job. You can also sign up for job alerts that can be sent daily or weekly to you. Never hurts to upload your resume and keep your options open. And here at APICS, we strongly believe in mentor-mentee relationships. We have recently improved our Mentor Center and moved this into our supply chain channel. So you could go to the supply chain channel today and sign up as a mentee or to give back as a mentor, and you can always do both. Rodney, if you could put it on the next slide. Thank you. We've also just announced the 2018 Supply Chain Compensation and Career Survey Report and Salary Calculator. This includes data from more than 2,600 U.S. supply chain professionals. I encourage you to try out this interactive tool to compare your salary to others in your field. So these are just a few of the many great APICS member benefits that we have to offer. Visit www.apics.org and click on APICS for Individuals, where you will find links to these features. And you can also find a link to Rodney's previous webinars. So if you're not currently a member, we do encourage you to join today. With that, we will start with the questions. Let's see. So Rodney, a person who is new to the field of supply chain, what can they contribute to an acquaintance during a networking event or while sending LinkedIn requests?
That's a really good question. And I think if you're brand new into supply chain, whether you're in college, getting your degree, or whether you just graduated, I think going in and being full-on transparent and opening your mind and soaking everything in like a sponge is the way to go. Because I'll tell you what, when you're starting out, people are eager to help one another, especially folks coming into the supply chain world that are about to start a new career. So being transparent and saying what you just said, hey, I'm brand new, I just got out of college, I'm trying to figure out where I want to lay my roots when it comes to my career, you're going to get all kinds of advice. So I think going in with more of a questioning and probing mindset versus I'm going to go contribute this or that is your best approach. And obviously, as you move through your career and you gain your knowledge base and expertise, then you can go in and contribute back that value and so forth. So when you're starting out with networking, whether in your college, whether you're getting out, ask a lot of questions and so forth, because you're not going to really have a whole lot that you're going to bring to the table that you're going to offer someone that's been in the game for a while, if that makes sense. The transparency, asking great questions, probing, and just being eager and excited and passionate about the world of supply chain. I think that will take you a long way as you start to build out your brand new network in the supply chain space.
Great, thank you, Rodney. How about someone who is in a new country and starting out their career and still struggling with the language? Do you have any tactics on how to handle language barriers while networking?
Really good question, and I certainly have encountered that myself with folks that are over from other countries that are, getting their degree or master's degree or whatnot. And it's something I think on a personal level that you're going to have to improve upon. So if you are struggling to either understand or communicate, or people can't understand you, then you really need to step back, and I would recommend just scheduling time, daily, after work or after school, with improving your language. And that it doesn't have to be here in the U.S. It's obviously wherever you're stationed at the moment. I think Google has a good translation app. I know there's lots of awesome tools that are coming out to help people learn new languages. I read about something the other day that groundbreaking technology to help people learn new languages. Beyond the ones that have been out for a while, I can't think of the name of it. The one that's popular on CD. Now you have everything is online. It's digital. So take advantage of improving it. I think that the number one goal here is to accelerate your learning of a new language. So the quicker you can do it, the better from a networking perspective.
Thanks, Rodney. Looks like we only have a few more questions here, and they're dealing more with following up and how to start the conversation with someone they newly connected with. I know you touched briefly on the follow-up. Do you have any strategies you can share with us?
I sure do. Part of what we do here in recruiting is, I think a lot of recruiters make the mistake of, a lot of people that are new to networking make the mistake of, okay, I reached out to that person, I never heard back. And you have to remember, people are extremely busy. Their inboxes, 100 plus emails a day. Now you have all these social media sites, so they're getting hit from a lot of different directions. Their phones are ringing off the hook from salespeople and whatnot, and recruiters like myself. So they're getting bombarded. They're more distracted today than ever. So you have to realize that you're one of many people that could be trying, especially if it's a supply chain executive at a popular company, right? So to combat that, and I tell people this all the time, I tell our recruiters here, you can't have that one and done approach where, I sent a message. Now I'm waiting for someone to hear back. I mean, I'm guilty myself of sometimes missing messages, and then when I do get that follow up, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, or I'm sorry for the delayed response. But you have to be persistent. You have to be assertive. You don't want to be overly aggressive, because that'll send the wrong message. You'll come across as a stalker. But hitting them from different angles is a great tactic as well, because some people are more, gravitate more towards email. Others are more, hey, I'm a phone guy. I don't like to type out emails. Some are more instant message. Some are highly active on LinkedIn. You can typically tell somebody on LinkedIn, they've got a full profile. You'll see that they've got at least 500 plus connections, which I think that's the maximum LinkedIn shows you. So you want to have some consistent and persistent follow-up. In the world of sales and prospecting, business development, when it comes to cold calling and trying to generate a new account, land a new account, they say that the average touch point for when you get some kind of response or connect with someone can be up to 7 or 8 attempts. Now that can be a lot from a networking perspective, but sometimes you have to do more than one call or email or LinkedIn message. Sometimes it's 2. Sometimes it's that third effort that gets their attention. And you may want to switch the subject line. In marketing, they have this thing called a tactic called A/B testing, where you try one message with one audience, a different message or different subject line with another audience. You see which one performs the best, and then you go with the best performing message or subject line. So experiment with your messaging. Another thing is 5 sentences or less when you're trying to put in that introductory, that first connect. Every message, 5 sentences or less. If you're gonna, even when you're sending someone your resume, I get this all the time. Stacks of paragraphs are your worst enemy. Make it real simple for someone to review the message, to scan it, and quickly interpret what you're looking for. If you start putting in these long stacks of paragraphs, it's a page long, no one's going to get that far. People are just too busy these days, too distracted to go through. You're forcing someone to read word for word to figure out what you want. Keep it short, keep it simple. That's my best advice for connecting with someone. You just have to keep trying without calling and emailing them every day. That's going to be a big turnoff. So find that fine balance between, overly aggressive and not doing enough follow-up.
Thank you, Rodney. I think that's all the questions we have for today. So we'd like to thank our speaker, Rodney Apple, for his time today, and to all of our attendees for participating. We hope that you have found this webinar to be beneficial. Please be sure to keep an eye out for future webinars on the online events page of the APICS site. This concludes today's webinar. Everyone, have a great day.